I just want to give a brief introduction to Kris Plemmons here. He is the career and executive coach. He has his own business called Flow Coaching. He he coaches executive clients from Google, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and many others in the pharmaceutical industry. So without further ado, and I'll keep it short and sweet, Kris, why don't you go ahead and take it away?
Thanks, Natalie. Yeah, I'm excited to be here, and I'm curious, before we get going, where are you in the world right now? I'm curious to hear who's the farthest from Denver, because I'm in Denver, and who's in Denver too. But just throw that in the chat. I'd like to see where people are calling in from today. MA, Denver, California, Canada, Port Hope, Michigan, North Carolina, New Orleans, good old San Antonio, or in Denver. Cool. I'm curious as to anybody outside of beyond Canada. A lot of people in North Carolina, New Jersey. Very neat. Well, hey, let's get going now. Let me share my screen. California, sorts of good stuff. All right, there we go. Another North Carolina. Yeah, it's incredible, and I feel very honored that you would be spending time doing this today, because really being here and being engaged in this conversation and being curious about what creating a fulfilling and successful career looks like is really the first step towards doing that. And so congrats on being here, high five, and thanks for being here. I feel very honored that you would spend an hour of your busy time from all the places that you guys are at. There's another North Carolina person, but where you're at in the world. And so, with that in mind, let's dive in. You know how sometimes we view our job as something we have to do so that we can then get to go do something else more fun? And I think, just hitting pause for a second, this picture of a stressed out hamster, it looks like he just got off the treadmill of life, is a good encapsulation of what a lot of us are experiencing these days. And bear with my humor with these pictures, but I believe if we're not having some sort of fun here, we're doing this wrong. And so, as I was saying, you know how sometimes we view our job as something we have to do so that we can then get to go do something else more fun? Well, what if the opposite of that were true? That work can be fun, playful, energizing, and overall fulfilling. I believe that there is something fundamentally wrong with spending most of our weeks working at something unfulfilling and lacking enjoyment. Spending Sundays dreading Mondays while living for Fridays is no way to live life. And I've been there. And I know that life is too short to spend our work weeks not enjoying what we do. And so, is it truly possible to enjoy our work and be successful? I get that question often. Like, really, Kris, is that possible? And I'm here to say equivocally that absolutely, yes, it is possible. That's how I experience most of my work, and I've helped many clients do the same. And by the way, too, I personally practice all of what we'll talk about today and help my clients do the same with great results. So this stuff does work, and with that in mind, what I'd like to do is cover 3 sections today. The first one, how your beliefs may be sabotaging your success and how to flip the script. This is a really powerful one because our beliefs, our state of mind really determine what we're willing to do and not to do and not do. Next section we'll cover is the key components of a fulfilling and successful career. What does that really look like? And what I'll do is I'll walk you through the model that I've developed working with clients and that I use when I work with clients. So that you'll have a platform, a model to go from. And third, execution and next steps. It's like, all right, Kris, so what? Now what? You told us this stuff. What do I do? And I have a couple quick, easy suggestions to go through. And to help you begin taking new steps towards different outcomes. And lastly, we'll have a Q&A session. So with that in mind, let's dive into the first section here, how your beliefs may be sabotaging your success and how to flip the script. So let me tell you a story about a current client of mine. We'll call her Sarah for confidentiality reasons, but I think this is a good example of how our beliefs really impact our outcomes and how to change them, how to flip the script. So when Sarah first reached out to me, she was the COO of a financial firm and feeling burned out, a lack of control, and disengaged in her work. I think this picture encapsulated her description of herself pretty well. She described it as whacking moles, running on the treadmill endlessly, and just not happy with her current role that she had worked so hard to get into. Basically, she had reached a point of discomfort so great that she finally decided that something had to change. Something had to give. What she was experiencing in her career was not sustainable. She was in a constant state of reaction, whacking moles on her to-do list, as she described. Her job had slowly spun out of control. It was now not sustainable. And here's what I see over and over again. We get caught up in the craziness of our worlds, running from one thing to another, trying to keep up. And in doing so, we put working on our careers on the back burner, to be done when I have time. And invariably, what ends up happening is like the proverbial frog in the pot of slowly heating water. We slowly lose control of our careers. It seeps in, it creeps in, mostly unnoticeable. We end up working on projects that we don't enjoy, taking on too many tasks, losing focus of what's really important to us. Our jobs become something to get through so that we can then go do something else more fun. Until one day we end up, well, boiled like Sarah, or like the picture of the hamster. And so Sarah's story is a cautionary tale that I want to help you avoid. And how this works, and this is really a powerful concept. And if you don't have something to write on, grab something real quick, because this is a key takeaway, and you're going to want to write this down. So here's the equation. Here's how our thoughts impact our outcomes, how our thoughts, our beliefs, our stories, the things we tell ourselves, how we choose to see events in our world, how they really impact our outcomes. And here's how it goes. Our thoughts, beliefs, stories determine how we see the world. And that's the lens that we're looking through. How we see the world determines our actions in the world. And our actions determine our outcomes. So our thoughts, our beliefs, our stories determine how we see the world, the lens that we're looking through, how we choose to see the event, the current situation that we're experiencing. And then how we see the world, how we see that event determines our actions in the world. Our actions then determine our outcomes. And so back to Sarah. In her case, it became clear that when she had started her role of COO, she'd put working on her career like she used to when she had time. But she never had time, and the years slipped away into her now out of control, burned out state. Her thought, which I see over and over again, was her belief, basically, was working on my career sounds great, but I don't really have time for that right now. I got to keep whacking these balls, putting out the fires. So that's how she was viewing it. And her buy-in to the belief of not enough time to work on it caused her to see it as such. Again, her belief. Her thoughts, her beliefs, her stories determined how she saw the world. And as a result, she slowly took less and less time to reflect. Well, basically what happened was she slowly took less and less time to reflect on what was really going on in her current role as she got caught up in the never-ending daily tasks. She went from proactive to reactive, and in her words, again, whacking moles and feeling like the picture of the stressed out hamster, or the one where she's pulling out her hair. She got so absorbed in her role that she lost focus on what was really important to her and what she was really good at and where she really wanted to go. So again, that's how she was viewing it. And her resulting actions, again, how we see the world determines our actions in the world. So her resulting actions were that she was taking on too many projects. She was multitasking to try to get through them all. She was not actively listening and engaged in meetings. She was running from one thing to the next and not spending quality time coaching and mentoring her direct reports. And she was short-tempered with her family in the evenings and on weekends. And so then her actions based on her actions then created her outcomes, right? Our actions determine our outcomes. And so her outcomes were that she was making errors that she normally wouldn't make, saying yes to and working on projects that she resented and disliked doing. Her direct reports were following her lead and underperforming and stressed out as well. She was exhausted at the end of the day and had trouble with emotions at home and was having marital issues. Basically, she had quit purposely working on her career and had slowly spun out of her control. And this is the power of what we tell ourselves, how our thoughts, beliefs, stories tend to determine our outcomes and reality. And so we began to explore with her that what if the opposite of her story was true? Her story of, I just don't have time for that right now to work on my career. But what if the opposite of that were true? That by being proactive in her career instead of reactive, like she was, it would create more time. By being proactive and having a clear vision would allow her to put up boundaries and be better at saying no and not take on too many things. So her willingness to examine and explore the potential of this new belief created a new lens to now see her world differently. And as her view changed, her actions changed. She slowly became more proactive. Gotta love Microsoft. Get these crazy updates all at all the wrong times, right? So anyway, as her view changed, as I was saying, her view changed, her actions changed. She slowly became more proactive. She created time to do the work to figure out what she really wanted for her career and to create a vision to better guide her, to figure out what she really wanted. That's critical. Her actions changed. As her actions changed, her results changed. She was able to take control back of her career. She began to feel more energized. She found that she was spending more quality time with her twin daughters and husbands in the evenings. Eventually, she found a better position that allowed her to work on projects that she's passionate about and has a sense of purpose around. And today, she's excited to go to work again. She has a sense of control, is working on projects that she's passionate about, and overall more successful, and has more time to spend being present with her family. Again, this is a cautionary tale. I want to help you avoid becoming Sarah. So begin with exploring the opposite to the common belief that I'll work on my career when I have time, to being proactive, taking ownership, and working on my career instead of being reactive will actually create more time. And as we go through here, I'd like to invite you to explore a few more new beliefs that will help you have better outcomes with your current job and career. And so this is a great quote from famous Earl Nightingale. The biggest mistake that you can make is to believe that you're working for somebody else. The driving force of a career must come from the individual. Remember, jobs are owned by the company. You own your career. And when we talk about careers, what I really mean is the bigger picture beyond what ECC has hired you to do. And so here's another belief along these lines that I invite you to explore and become curious about. I'm responsible for my career and not my employer. Again, it's that bigger picture beyond your current job. And here's another one. This one's really powerful. And this is all about taking ownership of your career, of really looking at it as a business. Your career is a business. It's your business. And it's time to start running it like a business. Really embracing the fact that you are the owner, the CEO, the entrepreneur, the startup founder, whatever you want to call yourself, and it's your business. And looking at it like that, understand that you are the product. And so as the owner, you need to understand yourself basically as the product. What is it that you do better than most everybody else? What are the problems that you like to solve? Where is your best market fit? Really key things like that are critical. And by the way, we don't have time to really go into details on this one, but if you want more information about this, I provided a link in the PDF that's attached to a blog post that I wrote on this that goes into more details. But I also noticed that that link didn't work this morning, so it might not work, but you can go to my website and read it if you want to learn more about this, but it's a very powerful one. And so I'm curious, how proactive versus reactive would you rate your current self in your career? And if you're comfortable, throw in the chat. If not, that's totally fine, but just think about it, if nothing else, to yourself. On a scale of 1 to 10. 1, I'm totally reactive. 10, I'm totally proactive. Just think about that for a second. I'd also like to invite you to explore this new belief. What if setting aside purposeful time to work on your career is part of your current job duties? Because by doing so, it'll actually make you better at your current job. Oh, cool. There's some people saying they were about 5. Thanks for the honest answer. That's good. 8, 7. There's some other ones coming in too. Great. But so back to what I was saying, what if setting aside purposeful time to work on your career is part of your current job duties? Again, that by doing this, it'll make you better at your current job. Here's another one. And again, my humor, this picture cracks me up. Sorry. But if we're not having some fun here, we're doing this wrong. But what if working on your career actually gave you time back? You can almost hear that guy saying that, pondering it. What if working on your career actually gave you time back? And lastly, but definitely not least, what if work was energizing, interesting, fulfilling, something that you look forward to doing? I'm just reading the responses. And an interesting one in here that I'm seeing a comment is, I think I would do more of it, meaning work on my career, if it was part of my work. And what I'm trying to say is that it is part of your work. That by working on your career, the bigger picture, it'll help you be better in your current role, because it'll help you be more aligned with what you want to be doing, your top skills and talents, that type of stuff. But we'll talk a little bit about more of that as we go through this. Okay, so section 1, just to wrap that up real quick, is to examine your beliefs around your career. Again, that's a very powerful place to start. And it's that equation again. It's that our thoughts, our beliefs, our stories determine how we view the world. How we view the world determines our actions in the world. Our actions determine our outcomes. And like I said, write that down. It's very powerful. So the next step basically is to understand the key components of a fulfilling and successful career. So what I'll do is I'll walk you through the model that I've developed of working with clients over the years and what I use with my current clients. And it'll give you a good foundational piece to begin working on your own career. But before that, I'm curious, I have some more questions. Does what you do during your work week give you a sense of fulfillment? You can just keep these to yourself if you want, but just think about this. Ponder it, if you will. Are you performing at your optimal best? And how resilient are you and your career? So with that being said, here's what I call the career mastery model. And it's made up of 4 pillars. The central pillar is the career vision. This is your steering wheel. It's your North Star. It's your rudder. This is how you control the direction of your career, of what you work on, what you want to work on. And by the way, so there's going to be 3 other pillars around this one, but all the pillars are interdependent. A deficit in one creates a deficit in all of them. It's a holistic approach, basically. And the opposite of that is true. An abundance in one creates an abundance in the others. So they're all very overlapping and interdependent. So the central one is your career vision. That's your steering wheel. The next one out is the pillar of fulfillment. This is how you enjoy the ride. Because like I said, life is too short to not enjoy the ride, right? Next one beyond that is the pillar of high performance. This is playing your game at the highest level, being so good at what you do that you cannot be ignored. And the fourth pillar is the pillar of resilience. This is about being able to bounce and not break when challenges arise. This is also about being able to show up daily and perform at your highest levels, your optimal best, while enjoying it day in and day out. That takes resilience. And then throughout all four of these is the what I call the one skill to rule them all, the skill and practice of awareness. And when I say awareness, what I mean is the ability to step back and observe and be aware of what's going on internally and externally in your world, of being here now, being present, being engaged with this moment of what's going on, being conscious, being awake. And so let's go through the key elements of each pillar, because each pillar has a few key elements to it. We don't have time to go into the details of each one. However, I will give a little bit more depth for one element from each pillar that most people tend to gravitate towards or have more questions around. So let's start with the career vision. Again, it's that central pillar. It's your steering wheel. It's the North Star. This is how you steer and control the direction of your career. And here's a great quote from Yogi Berra. You've got to be careful if you don't know where you're going, because you might not get there. You need a steering wheel, right? So I'm curious, do you know where you want to go with your career? What you want to experience? Or are you, like most of us, unconsciously allowing the currents of the world to steer your ship? So think about that for a second. Do you really, truly know what you want for your career, what you want to experience? A lot of people tell me they do, but they really don't when we get into the details. And knowing what you want is such a valuable and important thing. Because again, if you don't know what you want, how are you going to get there? So career vision will help you say no to opportunities that don't align and stay focused on moving forward towards what you want. Knowing what you want will help you reduce the clutter, stress, and paralyzing amount of choices and filter out the things that pull you away from your highest level goals. All the while confidently saying no more often. This allows you to focus on what is essential to what you want. And it's made up of these components, but there's more components to this. But here are a few of the key ones. One, it needs to be future-oriented and inspiring, something that will pull you towards it, that excites you when you read it. It'll describe how you feel, what you want to experience, what you want to feel and experience on a daily basis. The type of environment that you thrive in, that you want to be in. The types of people that you want to be working with and for. Your sense of passion and purpose. What is that? What does that look like to you? And your zone of genius. Your zone of genius is what you do better than most everybody else with more energy. It's your top skills and talents that really light you up, that give you energy. And knowing these things is critical. Again, it's the power of knowing what you want. I can't overstate how impactful that is and how most people tend to not take the time to really explore that. So the next pillar out is the pillar of fulfillment. And again, this is how you enjoy the ride, because like I said, life is too short not to enjoy the ride. So this is a sense of peace, contentment, opportunity, control, and connectedness in your career. The land of engagement is what I call it. So again, I'm curious, just reflect on this. Ask yourself, how fulfilled do you feel in your current work you do? And then imagine what it might feel like to have a true sense of fulfillment in your career. Think about that for a minute. Get curious about it. What might that look and feel like to you to be completely and totally fulfilled? Even if you are pretty fulfilled, I'm just looking at the comments. There's some good ones in there. But if you don't, even if you do feel fairly fulfilled, you can even do it more. But think about what it would really look like to you, because these are all individual. Fulfillment to me doesn't necessarily look the same as it would to you. But fulfillment's made up of these key components. The first one is autonomy. And this is having the ability to create your schedule. And that's at the heart of autonomy. It's autonomy is having the ability for freedom to pursue your passion and purpose in your career. Next one is mastery. It's the desire to get better at the work we do. The urge to continually improve, progress, and grow in our careers. Next one is connectedness. It's hard to say. As a common saying goes, people don't quit jobs, they quit bosses. Working for and with people you admire and genuinely like in a supportive yet challenging environment is critical. And the last one, and this is actually on the top, is passion plus purpose. This one is super powerful and people are always interested about it or interested in it and want to learn more. So I thought we'd talk, excuse me, briefly, a little bit about this one, a little bit more in detail. So passion, what I mean by that is it's a feeling of being energized, to experience a sense of excitement and enthusiasm in the work you do. Having a sense of purpose in your career is making valuable contributions to individuals, organizations, or society that you find personally meaningful. And Viktor Frankl, who wrote Man's Search for Meaning, which, by the way, is a fantastic book. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend it. But in his book, he says, life is never made unbearable by circumstances, but only by lack of meaning and purpose. Meaning could be a task to be completed or a loved one to be reunited with, but it is essential to have an orientation beyond oneself. And so passion plus purpose, when you combine these two, it's one of the best indicators of career success. There's a lot of research around this, really interesting stuff. The research is really interesting. When you love what you do, you show up with more excitement and enthusiasm. If you also feel that you're helping others, that they need you and depend on institutions. What was I saying? Uh-oh. Hey, Natalie, something's going on with feedback. There we go.
Yeah, I'm checking it, but all looks good as of now.
All
So
right.
if it comes up again, I'll see if we can figure out the problem.
Must have been a solar flare or something. But anyway, if when you combine passion and purpose, you pay more attention to meetings, you suggest new ideas, you notice the details, you engage more with colleagues and customers. Basically, you do everything better. So when was the last time your desire to accomplish something was greater than the pain, discomfort, or anxiety of working towards that goal? Do you think of some time like that? Because if you can, that's a great example of passion and purpose. When you overcome the pain, discomfort, or anxiety towards working on something that's when you're working towards a goal. It's a great example of how that works. And so also too, studies show that purpose increases motivation, productivity, resilience, and focus, resulting in higher performance at work. And that was a study done by Morton Hansen, who's a professor at Harvard. So the next pillar out is the pillar of high performance. How you play your game at the highest level. Becoming so good at what you do, you cannot be ignored. What I call the land of flow, being in the zone. To achieve the results and overall success that you want to experience in your career requires performing consistently at your optimal best. So when was the last time you felt like you were in the zone or a state of flow? Again, think about that for a second. When you performed at your highest level, can you think of a time like that? Where time fell away, you got so absorbed in what you were doing. So it's made up of 4 critical elements. First one is sustained motivation. Consistently performing at a high level can be challenging and is not easy. It's common to lose motivation in the everyday grind and slip back into mediocrity. And it's hard to show up every day and be motivated to do that. So it takes the ability and skill of sustained motivation. The next one is constant learning. The thirst for knowledge. We are in a knowledge workplace now. As times speed up, if you're not continually learning and developing yourself and your craft, you will be left behind. And it's all about curiosity. Being curious about developing yourself and your craft is critical. Creativity is the next one. Creativity is essential for solving complex problems, the kinds we often face in our fast-paced world. Innovation is where creativity comes from. It's about being creative and looking at being creative in how you approach your career, all the way to the problems that you solve on a daily basis. And last, and definitely not least, is emotional intelligence. And so let's talk a little bit more about emotional intelligence. This is a big one. And there's a great quote from Nancy Gibbs in Time magazine, where she says, IQ gets you hired, but EQ gets you promoted. And there's a lot of research that actually points out that this is very true. So emotional intelligence is one of the greatest indicators of high achievement. Working well with others allows you to add more value, accomplish more, and work on the projects that bring you a sense of purpose and meaning. Emotional intelligence means having the skills and ability to accurately perceive, express, appraise, understand, and regulate emotions in ourselves and in others. And by the way, the skill and practice of awareness, which we'll talk about here in a little bit more detail in a second, boosts emotional intelligence exponentially, is what I found. And we don't really have time to go into too much detail right now, but in the chat or in the in the Q&A, if someone wants to hear more about this, I can talk a little bit more about it in depth about how the skill of awareness boosts emotional intelligence. But if we have time and you're interested, let me know. I can give an example of that. And so resilience is the next pillar. I thought this picture was pretty encapsulating for resilience of playing, of having fun, having the energy. But it's how you continue to play your game at the highest levels. It's bouncing, pivoting, adapting, being able to go with the flow, you and your career. And this is what I call the land of strength, courage, and energy. And so here's a great quote from Dean M. Becker, who is an executive coach and a organizational resilience researcher and expert. He says, more than education, more than experience, more than training, a person's level of resilience will determine who succeeds and who fails. It is true in the cancer ward, it is true in the Olympics, and it is true in the boardroom. Now, let's face it, today's work environments can be stressful and challenging. Remember the hamster with Sarah? To perform at your optimal best while feeling fulfilled takes sustained effort. Resilience is the ability to regulate stress and optimal performance. A resilient person is not someone who avoids stress, but someone who learns how to master it and optimize performance while doing so effectively. So again, I'm curious, I'm endlessly curious, by the way, so bear with me on that, but I'm curious, how resilient do you feel in your current role? And in your world, really? Are you able to bounce and not break when challenges arise? And how are your energy levels? If you feel comfortable, throw that in chat. .5. That's pretty good. I think that's Natalie, actually. Feeling really good. All right, well, let's talk about the key components of resilience. First one is recovery and recharge. Because our careers are a game, and it's like a marathon. You have to be active in your recovery and recharge. And we'll talk about a little bit about more of that in detail of how to do that. Here in a sec, I'll come back to that one. Here's a great one. Someone put in the chat, high resiliency, mostly because of the people I work with. Everyone is available to help when needed. That's really encouraging. That's that community aspect. That's awesome. And then here's a 9. A relatively long time at ECC will train you to get up there. Okay, so anyway, the first one is recovery and recharge, and we'll come back to what that really means. The next component is community. Speaking of community, to be resilient in today's career environment is not a solo effort. It takes a connected community of professionals, friends, and family. People you can lean on, people that will support each other, people that will feed each other opportunities. And then the last one, but definitely not the least, is play. Kind of like what these people are doing. And here's a great quote. I don't know who says it, but We do not stop playing because we grow old. We grow old because we stop playing. I love that. You know, and as adults, we tend to forget about the benefits of play and how rejuvenating it can be. Play reduces stress, it boosts creativity and confidence, and just feels good. And what I mean by play as adults, you know, it can be, for me, it's going out and ripping it up on my mountain bike or snowboard. It can be playing a guitar, playing an instrument, going out and playing with your children in a purposeful way. But getting crazy, being physical, getting out there and playing is really critical to resilience. It's usually part of community. Absolutely. I don't know how to put that in there, but that's fantastic. It's a good comment. So let's talk about recovery and recharge, just a little bit more detail, because this is super critical. And this is what I work on with my clients. This is what I call the 4 daily non-negotiables. It's also something that I practice every single day. And it's made up of sleep right, which means a good night's, good sleep schedule and sleep hygiene are critical to helping the body heal and recover. Think clearly, have energy, and make good decisions. The next one is eat right. Good nutrition helps you recharge, recover, think clearly, sleep better, and increases overall performance. Think right. This means managing your thoughts, states of mind, and how you see situations determines how you see situations determines the amount of stress you have and your outcomes, resulting in better sleep, nutrition, and energy levels. And what this really means, a way to think about thinking right, is to do a daily meditation practice. That's the best way to help calm your brain down, help think right. It's taking your mind to the gym every day. And the last of the 4 non-negotiables is moving right. Daily physical exercise reduces stress, recharges the body, and helps you sleep better. And so you probably say, well, I don't have time to do all that. Hopefully you at least have time to sleep, right? But things get in the way. We get busy. And so what I commonly hear over and over again is, I just don't have time to do all that stuff in a day. But really, it's about just taking a minute to 10 minutes to do each one. Just do it a little bit. If you can, do them a lot more, but every day do a little bit of each one. And that will really boost your resilience, because that's all about recovery and recharge. Because again, it's a marathon. And like an athlete, if we view ourselves as like corporate athletes, we need to recover. You know, I think LeBron James, I heard him once say that he spends over $1 million a year on recovery stuff, massage, whatever that is for him. But that's how important it is. And I think as the corporate culture, we forget about this stuff. And it's such an important thing to recover and recharge yourself so that you can keep playing your game at the highest level. So again, throughout all of this is the one skill to rule them all, as I like to call it, the skill and practice of awareness. And awareness is a superpower that gives you control of all aspects of your career success. Because what you're aware of, you can control, measure, and change. And what you're unaware of controls you. Having awareness means to watch, to observe what is going on within you and around you. Awareness helps you see the current situation's actual reality, while giving you the control to choose your reactions and better manage emotions to influence outcomes. Practicing and developing awareness is critical to overall career success. The practice and skill of awareness helps reduce stress and anxiety, creating a more calm and present state. The skill of awareness allows us to become more focused on what really matters, increasing our ability to hear the signal through all the noise of today's crazy distraction world. Awareness allows us to step back from the thoughts, the beliefs, the stories that are controlling our actions and determining our outcomes. And so this is how you really practice in the moment that equation of your thoughts, your stories, your beliefs determine how you view the world. How you view the world determines your actions in the world, and your actions determine your outcomes. And awareness is the key foundational piece to being able to practice that in the moment, of being able to examine how you're seeing the current situation, what you're thinking about, and how that might be influencing your actions and thus your outcomes. And so awareness gives us a space to observe and make better choices, thus ultimately determining our levels of fulfillment, performance, and overall success. Most of us go through our days unaware of the stories, the beliefs, thoughts that are controlling us. Ultimately, these are determining our happiness, fulfillment, and success in our lives and in our careers. And so just to go through that again real quick, the model is the 4 pillars. The central pillar is that career vision, that's your steering wheel. The next one out is the fulfillment pillar. It's how you enjoy the ride, because life is too short not to enjoy the ride. Third one out is high performance. That's playing your game at the highest level. And the fourth one out is resilience. And that's how you play your game at the highest level, enjoy it, and also be able to bounce and not break. And then throughout them all again is the practice and skill of awareness. The one skill to rule them all, because awareness influences all of these and all the components. It's how you super boost, or you boost all the components of this. And so I'm curious, on a scale of 1 to 10 currently, how much time do you set aside to purposely work on your career? Throw that in the chat if you're comfortable. I'd love to see that. So there's a 2. Curious if anybody else is going to throw anything in there. 2, 4. Not enough, maybe 4 to 5. 4. Yeah, that's pretty common. You guys are not alone, obviously. There's more 4s. That seems to be about the average right now. But yeah, spending purposeful time working on your career is not a common thing. And that's what I'm really trying to get across, is how important it is to work on your career, because that will help you be better in your current job. It'll help you perform better in your current job. And it will give you time back, because it will allow you to do more of the stuff that you're good at, that you enjoy, with people that you enjoy it with. And you won't be running around like a crazy person like Sarah. -2. There's a 5 in there. Cool. No, thanks for sharing all that stuff. Okay, so what now? What? So we've walked through the beliefs, the model. So what, Kris? Now what? What do I do with this? Well, let's go back to that belief that I wanted you to explore earlier. What if setting aside purposeful time to work on your career is part of your current job duties? Remember that one? So if you can begin to see it as part of your job duties, your outcomes will be different. You'll start working on it, and you'll start experiencing your career much differently. And so I have 2 suggestions for this. 2 next steps to begin working on this stuff. One, excuse me, is to set up your environment for success. And what I mean by that is communicate. Communicate with your boss, with your coworkers, that you would like support, that you're working on your career. And encourage your direct reports. If you're in a leadership or management role, you have direct reports, encourage them to work on their careers. And by the way, model the way. Do it yourself and encourage them, but also encourage your peers. And community. This one's really powerful. I've found a lot of great results with it. It adds a lot of fun too, but getting a group of friends that you work with to set aside time together to work on your careers, to challenge each other, to question each other, to hold each other accountable, and support each other. It adds a whole level of fun to it. And my personal favorite, I'm a little biased to this one, get a coach. Get someone who can help you step outside the picture, step outside the movie, and see what's really going on. And challenge you a little bit too. And so the next suggestion, after you set up your environment for success, is to then pick one day and 1 hour during that day, every week, to set aside time for uninterrupted focus, to do this, to begin working on your career. So it's just 1 hour, 1 day weekly. And again, it's like, oh, but I don't have enough time. So there's that thought again, and that's super common that I hear over and over again. But here's the thing: there are 10,080 minutes in a work week. So I'm sure you can find 60 minutes out of those 10,080 minutes during the week to work on your career. And the more you do this, the more you'll rein it back into control, and the more time you'll actually get back, because you'll be working on the things that give you energy, that you're good at. It won't take as much time. You'll be able to say no to what seemed like good opportunities in the past, but that don't find what you really want to do. So again, it's and so my hope today is that we go from this to more of this. Less stress and more calm peace in our careers, more fun. And so we covered 3 sections, Jay, just to wrap this up. The first one was, how your beliefs may be sabotaging your success and how to flip the script. And that was that equation of your thoughts, your beliefs, your stories determine how you view the world. How you view the world determines your actions, and your actions determine your outcomes. And so remember at the beginning when I stated, how sometimes we view our job as something that we have to do so that we can then get to go do something else more fun. So begin exploring the opposite of that. What if the opposite of that were true? What would that look like to you? Pay attention and become more aware of how you're viewing your approach to your career. How might your beliefs be sabotaging your success? And again, it's that equation. Remember that. That's a key takeaway. Because working well, and so here are the other beliefs that I outlined that I'd love for you to begin exploring, being curious about. Working on your career will actually give you more time back. Working on your career is part of your current job duties. Your career is your business. Take ownership and start running it like a business. And I'm responsible for my career and not my employer. So take a moment right now and jot down the one that most resonates with you out of those. Second, we talked about the pillars and components of a fulfilling and successful career. So review the career mastery model and pick a pillar that you need to start working on this week. In fact, what might that one be for you? Where do you want to start? And then lastly, take action and create an environment that will help you continue to take action. Take a look at and go through the self-assessment PDF that I provided. It's a great starting place. And it's just that the scoring, it's basically going through and scoring each element of the pillars on 1 to 10, and it'll help you step back and reflect on where you're lowest and where you're highest. And that'll give you a good starting point to begin working on your career with. And so, because your career is an endless game, there is no finish line. When you get complacent and stop growing your career, you run the high risk of ending up like my client, Sarah, all frazzled out, whacking moles left and right, and getting burned out. See that over and over again. And what happens is it'll creep up on you. You'll slowly end up working on things that don't align with what you want to be working on, with people and environments that you don't want to be working in. You'll end up using skills that drain your energy and taking on too many tasks and projects. You'll end up whacking moles, feeling frazzled, life spinning out of control, and lacking meaning. So go out today and create an environment that will help you successfully begin working on your career in a more purposeful way. And schedule that hour on your calendar for this week to begin. Do it on Fridays. That's a thing, a practice that I help my clients really get involved with, is a weekly reflection of spending an hour on Friday afternoon, reflecting back on their week of what happened, what's working, what's not working. How am I doing with my career? Am I in alignment with my career vision? Am I going where I want to go? And based on what I experienced this week, what do I want to do differently next week to have better outcomes? So spending that time reflecting at the end of the week is critical and is so, so valuable. And so just to wrap it up at the very end here, this is a great quote. A year from now, you will wish you had started today. So let's jump into the Q&A. Love to hear what you guys have to say. I'm going to unshare my screen, Natalie.
Great, and I can help monitor the chat if anybody else has any questions, or if you'd like to ask it out loud, that's fine too.
So a few common questions that I hear are the emotional intelligence stuff. People are usually curious about that, and how the practice and skill of awareness influences that. So I can give an example of that. That's a lot of people are, like I said, always asking me about that. So basically, let me give you a scenario that, so say I'm in a meeting and this guy Dave is in the meeting. I find Dave kind of annoying in general. And so I'm presenting something and then Dave comments on it. And as usual, I find that I have this feeling, this thought, based on what Dave says to me, that he's being disrespectful to me. And so that's the first thought. And if we step back and look at our thoughts like dominoes, you know, if we stack up dominoes end on end in a big, huge, endless spiral, where you tip them over and they spiral out. If we think about our thoughts like that, that first thought, that first domino, is that thought of, there goes Dave, he's disrespecting me again. Then that topples, hits the next domino. Dave is such a pain in the butt. Next domino. You know, I can't believe Dave is even qualified to be doing his job. Whatever. It begins to spiral out. And then what happens is I stop paying attention to the meeting. I'm caught up thinking about how frustrated I am with Dave. And I'm not actually listening to what Dave says. And maybe Dave is a blue on the insights scale. And maybe he just doesn't have a good filter. And I'm just interpreting it this way. Whatever, but I am disengaged. And my outcome is that I'm not engaged in the meeting. And I'm frustrated, I'm stressed out, and that trickles out across the other participants in the meeting. And so what awareness does, it gives you space between that first domino and the second domino. So that first domino falls. Oh, there goes Dave disrespecting me. But if you have awareness and you've been practicing this, you can step back and observe it. Be like, oh, I'm having that thought that Dave is annoying. That way it doesn't hit the second domino. And then you have the choice in that moment to choose the next domino. You can pursue that path, but you knowing that it's not useful, you probably won't. Or you can be like, well, maybe what if Dave is a blue and he just isn't filtering out what he says very well? I wonder what he really has to say. And then that creates another new domino where you're actively listening. And so that's the power of awareness and combined with emotional intelligence. It helps you put a space between that thought and then the resulting emotion of anger, frustration with Dave, whatever. And then you can choose a better outcome. You can choose to view it differently and control and manage your emotions much better. So that's a common thing that I hear throughout this too. So does anybody else have any questions? Yeah, Catherine, that's a good comment. Yeah, awareness makes so much sense, but it takes lots of practice to implement. It's a daily practice. It's something you need to do daily, and you need to train your skill of it. And here's another common question regarding this as well. It's like, how do you train awareness? And the best way to do that is through meditation. And there's two types of meditation specifically that work really well for this, but it's single point focus meditation, where you're focusing on the breath and returning from thoughts and coming back to the breath, or a mantra, or even a visual. The other one is called open focus, where you're paying attention to your thoughts, but letting them go and just seeing how they're connected and being curious and always coming back. And it's always about letting go of thought, returning to what you're focused on, returning, letting go, returning, letting go. And what that does is it helps you be better at it in the moment during the day. It helps you be better at mindfulness during the day. Yeah, it's serenity now. Helps you be more serene. Yeah, it helps with serenity, calm, peace, focus. yes, meditation is a fantastic thing, but it helps you train this awareness during the day. And if so, in the moment, you can choose between, creating space between those dominoes. And my suggestion, and what I do with clients, is really help them get this into a practice of doing it every morning for at least 10 minutes. 20 minutes is optimal, but 10 minutes is great. And it's a great way to really affect your performance, everything. Meditation is a powerful training tool. Yeah, and here's another good comment from Kris. If you want to change your world, change your perspective of it. Absolutely. So all that being said, is there any other questions? Does anyone have anything that they would like to ask or bring up? And here's something, based on our discussion today, what are the actions you guys are going to start taking? What's your plan? Throw that in the chat box. I'd love to see that. And maybe here's another one. What is your biggest takeaway from today? What was most useful about our discussion today? Yeah, schedule some designated time, definitely. Wow, it's 10:57. I didn't realize how long I talked for. So we're about up on time anyway, right, Natalie?
Yep, just about up on time. I will just say thank you all for, if there's no other questions, of course, if there is, feel free to send them to me and I'll pass them along to Kris if you are fine with that, Kris, and answering questions in addition to this. Do you want to talk about your PDF that we have attached to the invite that you can access there? Do you want to let people know a little bit about that?
Sure. There's a basic outline of the career mastery model that we talked about with a little blurb on it. So that'll give you something tangible to begin working from. And then there's the self-assessment, career assessment thing that I mentioned earlier, where it breaks down the pillars and the key components of each pillar, and then you can go and score yourself on them and get a kind of a visual of where you are today in your career. And then that way you can begin your lowest scores, you can begin working on those in a purposeful way. And then there's some other resources in there. Like if you want to reach out to me and if you have any questions, feel free to shoot me an email. The contact's in there. My website is on there. There's also that blog post on how to really take ownership of your career and run it as if it's a business. Again, I don't think the link works. I checked it this morning on the PDF that you sent out, Natalie, but I don't think that one works. But you can find it on my website. It's easy to find. And someone in here put in the chat, just think about my career future that I don't know, that I don't do now. Yeah, thinking about your future and what you want. Again, it's that steering wheel. Probably most of you really need to start there and figure out what it is you truly, truly want. Because again, most people I talk to think they know that, but they don't really. And spending the time to really figure out what you want gives you the power to choose a direction. And once you have a direction, you can go for it. And so that's critical. That's huge. But anyway, I'm rambling. Anything else, Natalie? Anybody else have any questions? I'm really grateful for everyone being here.
We're grateful for you, Kris. Thank you so much. I'm showing 11 o'clock my time, so we really appreciate you. Thank you so much. And for all of those who want to reference this will be posted in Talent LMS next week, and I will send you a link next week to it in my weekly emails. So thanks again for joining, and thank you, Kris.